very good Sunday evening to you, and welcome back after a 3.5-month hiatus to the Irish Pub in Atlantic City. I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon. Did I do the math right, or is it 4.5 months?
4.5, but who's counting?
4.5 months. It's been a long time. Here we are back in Atlantic City at the Irish Pub. Want to talk more about the Irish Pub in a second. Want to introduce my socially distanced guest this evening. So nice to have a guest with us. So nice to be back, and so nice to see my who I always introduce as my meteorological mentor, Jim Eberwine.
Dan, thank you very much. I'm happy to be back here as well.
And we are socially distanced.
Yes.
We are inside. There is no one else here but us. Now the Irish Pub is open, and we're gonna get to that and talk more about what they're doing. We're gonna talk about hurricanes, weather, flooding, all that stuff that we've missed talking to you about for the past 4.5 months. We're also going to talk about it without our mask on. Now, we are being very responsible, social distancing, wearing our mask when we should, but because it is only us in here, and you guys could probably understand us a lot better without the masks, and just like we do in the news business, when we're South Jersey.
Okay.
All right, so Jim, first off, 4.5 months. I think no one could have forecasted what has been going on
in the tropics.
In the tropics, but this craziness that's been going on in the country.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at a natural disaster when you have like a hurricane or something like that. You deal with maybe 15, 20 counties at the most. Here we're dealing with 3,414 counties across the country, and it is absolutely crazy to stay on top of all this, all the executive orders coming out. And one of the big things that in the weather field that we're concerned about, as well as emergency management, is the fact that if we were to get something where we'd have to evacuate people, the shelters now would have to be socially distanced. In other words, you just can't pack people in now. You could probably only put 50 people max in a shelter. So that means if you're evacuating 3,000 people, you have to have 60 shelters. Where are you going to get that? So it's affecting everything weather-wise and also health-wise.
And we just had Hurricane Hannah hit Texas. Now, fortunately, it hit a pretty unpopulated section of the Texas Gulf Coast.
Yes.
And it was a minimal. Well, it wasn't a minimal hurricane, but it wasn't a major hurricane hitting a major metropolitan area, but that's obviously something that we do have to worry about, as we're already on the H storm, where actually I is up next, and we're in July. I mean, the peak of the hurricane season.
How do you say that storm?
Yeah, go ahead, I'll give it to you.
The next one is
Isaiah's.
Isaiah's. Something like that.
It's ISAIAS.
We are going to screw this up.
and it's probably actually going to be with us pretty shortly, because there's a healthy tropical wave out over the Atlantic, which has a very high chance for development.
Right.
And some of our computer models are forecasting that to become a long-tracked storm. Now, we don't know where it's going to go, if it's going to affect any land, but that may be something we have to deal with as we go through this week.
Right, yeah, and again, these other ones have been near shore. Like you said, this one's going to be, you're going to be saying, oh my gosh, this is 10 days, 11 days we're dealing with this. And some of the models, as we get out of July and go into August, you start to see the tracks change a little bit. Instead of this way, you start to see them going like this, which is the customary track that we see.
Now the peak of hurricane season is when?
September 10th.
September 10th. And as far as the East Coast goes, and as far as New Jersey goes, what's the range? Obviously, hurricane season is June 1st to November 30th, and this year, and actually most of the past 6 years, it started before June 1st when we had named storms. But the meat of the season for us, when people should really be, focused on the tropics, would you give a 2-month range there?
Oh, I think mid-September through the end of November.
Okay.
And the reason for that is we're more susceptible to this kind of left hook, or a dog leg left, versus this time of year they would come up from the south. There's nothing really blocking them.
Right.
So they would come up and go out to sea. But as you get into the middle of September, the upward pattern begins to shift. You get these blocking highs up there, and that could be a problem. But yeah, but we've mentioned this before on this program. We actually have a 12-month hurricane season.
We do.
You know, New Jersey with the nor'easters and hurricanes. So
And
overall, we get practice, but we hope we don't get the big one, as Tom was saying earlier.
And it's been it was an easy winter.
Yes.
Our last tidal flooding talk here, when things were much different, was back on March 9th.
March 9th,
We were
yeah.
coming out of a year with hardly any snow.
Right.
It ended up being the second least snowy winter on record.
Right.
We didn't have any major nor'easters. But this is supposed to be a bad hurricane season.
Yes.
Now, and we're already on H. A lot of the storms have been relatively weak. I think one of them was a storm for like 2 hours
2
before
hours,
it moved
yeah.
on land.
Yeah.
So it's not. So I mean, quantity is one thing, but I mean, all it takes is one storm
Yep.
to define a season. We're not at the meat of the season yet. I mean, there could be as many as 21 named storms this year.
Yep.
We only have 21 names.
Yeah.
What happens if we go to the W storm? What happens if we run out? Because there is no XYZ.
Well, we go to the Greek alphabet. Remember that?
Right.
Well, I think we did that in 1995 or 2005.
2005. Yeah.
We went to the Greek alphabet, and you think the names are hard now when you get to them. But anyway, now I would not want to see us go to that. Although Mr. Klotzenbach out at Colorado State, he's up in his forecast. NOAA's coming out with their update, I think, first part of August. So they're probably going to pile on a few more storms because it's very, very active. That big shroud of dust that's been coming off the African coast, that has settled down, and that, as you saw, inhibited a lot of development out there in the tropical Atlantic. But now it's settling down, the air is clean, the waters are warm. And speaking of Hannah, I looked at some of the profiles in the Gulf of Mexico when Hannah came ashore. Guess what the water temperature was at Three Buoys?
Like 89 or 90.
92 to 94.
Wow.
Bless you. 92 to 94. And it was incredible. I mean, and guess what our water temperature is off in New Jersey? In places like Manasquan and Barnegat and down at Coast Guard. Guess what the temperatures are? 82, 83.
Yeah.
And not just on the skin temperatures, but deep.
Right.
And I think that's what happened with Faye when she came up. She came up and she was a little bit slower than normal and was able to tap some of that warm water, and she hung around a little bit more. So
Yep.
if she had been moving fast, she would have never been able to take advantage of the warm waters.
Now you're an emergency manager as
Yes.
well for the city of Absecon.
Yes.
You mentioned at the beginning of this where you guys plan for tidal flooding, nor'easters, hurricanes, evacuations, shelters. Is the pandemic factoring in your planning at all? Like, is there any planning going on right now? Say, what if Isaiah's come up the coast, or the W's, or whatever? Any one of these many storms we're going to have this year. What if they come up the coast? What if we need to evacuate and try to socially distance while evacuating? I mean, evacuating the Jersey Shore, as we've talked about many times, is a huge problem,
Yep.
non-pandemic. Is
Right.
it a bigger problem in the pandemic?
Absolutely. In fact, just a few days ago, we had a conference call with the Atlantic County Office of Emergency Management. All the municipalities were involved, and one of the hot topics was, what are we going to do if we get a situation where you have to evacuate people? And as I mentioned earlier, these evacuation shelters are not many, but now if you're going to have to social distance, if you have say a big building, you're only allowed so many people in that building. You can't even segregate that building to hold, say, accommodate 25 people here and 50 here. You only can have 25 in that building, and now you have to look somewhere else. So if we get into a situation like that, and they're already planning for that, by the way, and we saw the executive orders come out from the governor's office and New Jersey Office of State Police several months ago, this is going to be a big concern if we have to evacuate people. And the other thing too, I think from a personal standpoint, how many people would evacuate? I don't think you'd have a lot of people willing to evacuate in this case, and that may be a problem as well.
Well, if getting everyone out of harm's way because of the flooding, the storm surge that will
Right.
come up shore, it is troublesome enough without a pandemic.
Right.
Now you're saying, all right, you can stay in your house at the shore or go to a shelter amidst all these people. More people are going to be apt to stay home and not evacuate.
Absolutely,
Right.
and they're going to be afraid to do it. And again, we're looking at people who are coming into the shore communities from great distances, and many of them have never been in a situation where you've had to do anything like that. So you're educating people along the way. And remember when Hurricane Sandy was coming, we were educating people about a post-tropical storm as the storm was coming in. And people were thinking, well, now we're educating them about a pandemic, what you should be doing. And it's not only new for them, and it's not only going to be confusing for them, it's going to be confusing for the emergency management community. And they're already, like I said, we had the conference call, and I want the people to put their mind at ease a little bit. Even with the pandemic, the emergency management community has been looking at this problem for months now, for months and months and months, and dealing with it. So it's not going to be a case where it's just going to spring on them and all of a sudden they have to do something. There are already plans taking place.
I mean, and that is the worst case scenario anywhere really along the East Coast in the peak of hurricane season. And also to mention too, Hawaii actually getting a hurricane today, which is kind of rare in itself.
Yep.
Hurricane warnings out for Hawaii. I mean, it's what, Aniki back in 92.
Yeah.
I mean, they get hurricanes, even though they're surrounded by warm water.
Right.
You know, we see more of them on the East Coast than they do out west.
Well, you know, it's funny. We're always saying, if you want to have a disaster, you want your own disaster. And we saw that with the derecho. We had 1 or 2 counties involved, so we had everybody else helping us. Here you got 3,414 counties. Where are you getting your help from? You saw early on you couldn't get any PPEs for anybody because no one really was prepared for something like this. Although dating back to 2015, New Jersey had this long pandemic plan that would go into effect once something was to happen similar to like 1918. But as soon as this thing started to take off, we were behind the curve right off the bat.
So I mean, and that is the fear this year, to have a landfalling storm. You know, really, because every state's getting hit by the pandemic.
Yeah.
And if you look on the East Coast, I mean, that gets hurricanes. Texas, Florida, the Carolinas,
Louisiana.
Georgia, Louisiana.
Yeah.
You're right. The whole South, really, for the most part, and even up the East Coast. Even though New Jersey is one of the better states, you still have all the issues that come with a hurricane, plus all the issues that come with a pandemic, combined.
And it's pure panic. And for instance, if this storm, which would be the next one,
Isaiah's.
Perfect.
All right.
See, if that one comes a little bit closer to the East Coast, it's going to be a major story. Major story. But the people should realize, don't make it a major story. Go to the Hurricane Center. Get the information from the Hurricane Center and reputable TV people like yourself who know about the Jersey Shore. You want to get the best information that you can possibly get. And if you go on the National Hurricane Center page today, they have preparedness, hurricane preparedness, but right down at the bottom, they also have CDC information in evacuation. So they're all combined, right now, and they've been working on this since the whole thing kicked off in the early part of the year.
And it's a good time. And we had a lot of shows over the past couple of years on hurricane preparedness kits and knowing your evacuation routes and prepping your house for flooding and all the stuff you can do. And now the quiet time, and especially the time where people are home more because of everything going on. This is the time to ready yourself for flooding, for storms.
Right.
I mean, this is the time to prepare.
Yeah, you want to get ahead of the curve as much as you can. We plan for hurricanes in the wintertime in the Weather Service. You plan for winter storms in the summertime. You're always looking ahead and planning and trying to come up with some sort of scheme which is going to be the best one in the event something were to happen. But in this case here, again, panic will be the initial problem that we'll see. And so I always tell people, get on the Hurricane Center page now, see what they're doing, follow their storms, even if they're not going to affect this area, see how they handle them, see what products are available, and then the local National Weather Service office too.
And all good resources, and with the peak coming up, right? Because I mean, usually once you get into the middle of August, that's when things really start to brew, and that's also when you start to look farther off the coast. So, like you said, a lot of the stuff's been home brew close to shore. Right. Now the African waves come off the coast. We call it
Cape Verde.
Cape Verde season.
Yeah, Cape Verde season. So,
and we've had some long track, strong Cape Verde hurricanes come up the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
And you have a few in mind?
Gloria.
Gloria,
Gloria was in 1985.
Yep.
Was a classic.
September.
And we had Edward. We had
Isabel was one right back
Isabel,
in 2003.
Isabel. Went up to Chesapeake.
Yep.
And yeah, these are the ones that it's funny when you see them so far out, and every model comes along, you switch your plans a little bit, and then it takes it here, So you act accordingly as the bulletins come out, and then after 10 days, after you think it's going to hit you, and you're prepared for it, it goes out to sea. You say, God, I wished it would have hit us. We were so prepared for it. But no,
It's a good thing. That's the best thing with them is to go out to sea, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And again, this season's going to be a little bit different. It got off to a very strong statement by the Hurricane Center and also NOAA and Colorado State about the number of storms. I think initially 13 to 19 named storms. They upped that a little bit. But the interesting thing, Dan, is 13 to 19 storms. Of the first 8, only one had been a hurricane.
Right.
So how many of these storms that are left are going to be hurricanes?
Right. You would think a
lot.
higher percentage, just because, like you said, the water's warm, it's
Yep.
untapped,
Yep.
the dust is being scattered out. So I think it's going to be a very rough couple of months. Now, the folks that forecast these things are pretty good now,
Right.
with a higher scale at forecasting the number of storms. Busy season, quiet season,
Right.
average season.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think the thing people want to know more,
Where?
is it going to be a New England strike this year? Is it going to be a Gulf Coast year? Is it going to
Right.
be a Mid-Atlantic coast year? There's very little skill there as far as, I mean, even when a storm comes up the African coast, let alone for the year as a whole,
Yeah.
I mean, that shows you meteorology is still an inexact science.
Yeah, when the forecasting in the Atlantic Basin first started in '84, the forecast was for the Atlantic Basin, and then over the years, they tried to tailor it to a particular part of the coast, and then other agencies started putting their forecast out and trying to be a little bit more exact.
Right.
So now you've got some forecasting this part of the coast is going to be a hot spot. Over from New Orleans to Brownsville is going to be a hot spot, and through the Caribbean islands a hot spot. So everybody's trying to refine it, but you're right. The one thing, the tracks are getting a little bit better, but the problem still is the rapid intensification.
Right.
That's
And
always been the problem.
we even saw with Hannah. Initially Hannah was supposed to be a tropical storm.
Yep,
It
yep.
ramped up to like a 90-mile-an-hour hurricane.
Yeah.
So intensity is always a problem.
Oh yeah, intensity, and again, especially when it's near the coast like that.
Yep.
Gonzalo, which had some promise initially, was supposed to come out, but I think with that storm, it was supposed to burp and become a hurricane, and then weaken out,
Yeah.
which it did, but
Yeah.
it never reached hurricane
Right.
strength.
Right.
So, that's going to be the question. That's going to be the question this year, and the only thing that you can tell the people who are watching this is to stay ahead of things. Get on the Hurricane Center page today. Look at the information they have available, and if anybody has any questions, they can always get in touch with us, and we'll take them through some of the websites and things that they can follow.
And it's a great resource, and you can see hurricanes coming. I mean, you can't always see thunderstorms, derechos. I mean, nor'easters and hurricanes, they are very well forecast, and you have plenty
You have
of
to
warning.
get on. They have to get on that satellite, that new set.
Yes.
Goes 16
Yep.
and 17.
Yep.
You get on those satellite pictures; they are just absolutely dynamite, and you can track the storm and read the bulletin at the same time, and you'll understand it much better when you can see it.
Absolutely. I want to say hi to Donna Rando, Mary Lee Ice, Jim Tyler. We got some Ohio viewers. Claremont, Florida, checking in. Liz Toller, hi to you. Thanks to the Coastal Coalition for donating money for a weather station in Beach Haven on LBI. So, and again, more weather stations.
Yes.
Obviously, more information, helps us forecast, helps us, the weather cameras along the shore help us understand what's going on. Dave Garner, nice to have you on too. Jim Eberwine has lots of fans on here. Kevin Shelley, Jim Eberwine is the
Kevin
best.
Shelley, oh my goodness. We go back a long time.
Dave says, great discussion. Dan Gottlieb, best NOAA weather guy in South Jersey history, and I 100% agree.
Wow.
I know. No, my history doesn't go back as far as our executive director, but no, I absolutely agree. The best around. Liz says, glad Tidal Flooding Talk is back. Many, many thanks to the Irish Pub for allowing you to still broadcast. And in that respect, Liz, let's give a huge thanks to the Irish Pub.
Absolutely.
You came in the back to the patio.
Yep.
And they got a great outdoor seating area. Everyone properly social distanced. Masks were required. A great staff.
Yep.
A lot of times you benefit from the sea breeze. Maybe not today, but you benefit from the sea breeze being along the shore. So the indoor is closed. There's no indoor dining. Per state law, we're alone broadcasting, so we're all properly socially distanced as well. But don't let that stop coming you down. They got a full menu, full drinks and bar, 11:30 in the morning till midnight. So it's not 24 hours right now. Hopefully, when things get back to normal, they're going to be open 24 hours. And I made many trips in here 3, 4, 5 a.m.
And the inside of this place is just absolutely dynamite.
It
I just love it. And I'm drinking water because we're in the prohibition room.
Yes. Oh, we are. I didn't know that.
But it's a great spot, and I'll get back down here and sit down with a nice cocktail one night.
And they're unbeatable chicken fingers too. That's my mainstay on the menu. But the patio is really nice too. I mean, you're kind of like secluded back there. It's really nice. So we want to thank them. They've always been a huge supporter of the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. So 11:30 in the morning to midnight, 7 days a week. So great to have them here. Maria Franuti, nice to hear from you. Glad you're watching. And Bill McCord. Jim, good to see you. Bill McCord from Summers Point.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
So again, we're going to be back here regularly every week, every Sunday. Palma should be back.
Happy birthday, Palma.
It is, yeah. It's happy birthday. I believe it was.
She's here, but you can't see her.
She's out celebrating. and when she is back, we're going to move the camera back even more, make sure there's 6 feet and properly social distance. So we do want to say, we are being safe. We wanted to wait to bring Tidal Flooding Talk until we could do it in a safe, quiet, effective environment. And after 4.5 months, we finally can. May, June, July, 3.5. I think I had it right.
No, March,
April, May, June, July.
It's almost 5.
Okay, 4.5.
Oh, damn.
My math's a little off.
Almost
4.5
That's
months.
the new math you're talking about.
It's the new math, yeah, that's right.
Fingers.
So again, we're going to have great guests back. I know Jim Eberwine's going to be back. I'm going to forecast probably sometime in September when we're in the peak of hurricane season. And again, hopefully we get through the season unscathed. But we do have to be ready. And like we talked about, now is the time to prepare, especially with the addition of having a pandemic to prepare for as well. Marjo Attack says, I think of Jim as the original weatherman. Wow. Original in quotes. So
wow. Thank you very much.
It's like Ben Franklin and then Jim Eberwine and then everyone else in the business, right?
But I never tried that lightning thing, though.
No, you did. That's good. That's
My
probably
wife keeps
safe.
telling me to try it.
We want to thank Jim.
We do want to thank Jim Eberwine. And Jim, you know how this goes. Even when we are social distancing, thankfully I have a very long reach and I can reach across this 6 feet and give you an Irish Pub t-shirt, which you probably have a collection of.
Oh, no, I thank you very much. And I wear them too. I wear them. I wear the hat. I got the winter hat. I wear that. Absolutely. And I thank you very much.
Jim, who I believe was one of our first guests, and Jim was our first guest when we started back as well. So we do want to thank Kathy Burke from the Irish Pub. They have a great gift shop here as well. Is the gift shop open? The gift shop is not open, but when we do open back up and when things are back to normal, great gift shop with great Irish Pub memorabilia. Kenzie, my 1-year-old, has an original like Irish doll that Kathy Burke got her as well. That's sitting on her shelf overlooking her room. So again, we want to thank the Irish Pub. So Eileen Reisler says, glad you're back, great info. Liz says, happy birthday, Palma, and hopefully Palma will be back next week. That's the forecast anyway. We know it will be 4 months and 3 quarters since our last show. So quickly I do that math. So again, want to thank you. We're brought to you by the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. So great to have Jim Eberwine back with us, and we should have guests every week now. And as things change, and here at the pub and here with Tidal Flooding Talk, we'll change along with the times. We'll always be safe and responsible, and we'll always keep you posted and informed, and hopefully storm ready.
Right, and thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate it.
All right, have a great night.